the usage of the PUBs for this timetable period. My name is Ivona, and I am going to lead you through the beginner meeting. I'm joined here with my colleague Anna, who will assist me with this today's meeting, and she will also take over the intermediate part in the afternoon. For now, do you have any questions, anything that we can address before we start the meeting? Then maybe just information that this meeting will be recorded and the recording will be shared with everybody. So in case some of your colleagues could not join, of course, you can send them the recording and you can then follow along. I will share my screen. We prepared kind of a guideline of what we should cover in the next 2 hours. I do have to apologize if my voice cracks a little bit. It is just this time of the year, I would say. And thank you for understanding on that part. Okay. So, first of all, let's see what is PCS indeed. So PCS is what we call a path coordination system. So this is the system that you will use to coordinate your paths between your cooperators, between your partners, in order to create a harmonized request towards the IAMs. And then, of course, you will, just a second, to remove this part. Yes, and then your request will be sent to the IAMS, and then coordination of the response can happen. In PCS, we actually have multiple environments. So first, let's get to that one, because PCS Online, and I will paste this in chat, is where the actual dossiers and your actual requests will be at the end. In order to get access to it, you should request an account, or your colleague should request it for you. With this link, you will send direct email to support PCS. In the couple of weeks, we will also put here the link to the form that had to change a little bit. So expect a little change here, but nevertheless, sending an email to support pcs@rne.eu is always a good idea. Online, as I said, is the live environment, and we have test systems in order for you to use them and actually train yourself and check the functionalities of PCS whenever you want. Today, and also what we invite you to use, is the test 1 system. And I will place this link also in the chat. Test 1 system is mostly used for creating a new trainings for the new users. It is used from the beginning, meaning that you have to create all the testing use cases and testing information on your own. In order to use this one, you will actually have a possibility to use the company account. So when you get the access to PCS Online, you will have it with your own account. So name, surname, or however we create your account, and your own password. That is different in PCS Test 1, because in PCS Test 1 we have the accounts per company, and for every company the password is the same. It is PCS Test, but a little bit funkier. So let me also place this link and information about the PCS Test 1 in the chat, so it is easily approachable for you during today's sessions. And you can always find your account on the list of the companies that are registered in PCS. There are also other systems, there is a test 3 system. I will not share this link in the chat not to confuse you. And there is a test 4 and test 2 systems. What is the difference? First of all, test 4 and test 2 are the systems that are mostly used for the interface testing, and we are not going to use any of those. Test 3 is the system that is a direct copy from the production system. So a few times a year, we copy whatever is in production into the test 3 system. And here you have to kind of have the information about your data. So you have to log in with your own user name and your own password in order to access it. If you wish to later on in your usage of PCS use this test 3 system, just be aware that this is also one system that is highly unstable, because when we are doing any improvements of the system, this is where our developers show us the results whenever they are created. So it might be that there are some bugs in the test 3 system which you will not get into the production or test 1 system. I would like to ask from the participants, is there anybody who still doesn't have access? Okay, I don't see any hands raised, so I will assume that everybody is equipped with at least some access. If not, feel free to put your names in the chat, and then we will make sure to give you access based on the approval that we will get from your company. So I have Eric who said that you do not use PCS. Okay, then we will see how to create your own account later. I encourage you to send an email to support PCS. I will put in the chat the email address now. Okay. Thank you for that, but no worries, because on the test now during the training we will use only the test accounts that are available to everybody, so you can learn already and use those test accounts, and you can be either the company that we will show you, or you can be the company that would kind of be your own company, because on the list you should see and find every company that is registered in PCS. Okay. Then I would like to just tell you that exactly how Anna now said that we are, and we noted everybody who put in the chat that they don't have the account. This is something that PCS support will enable you. PCS support is available for you for any questions that you have, any issues that you might have with your dossiers, with finding the correct solution to any problems that you might encounter. And whenever you open an email and send it to us, we create a so-called ticket. So under your number, you get the status of the resolution of your ticket. So we track it and we make sure that everything that you kind of, sorry, everything that you reported is resolved in the soonest possible way. Then I would just like to tell you that how to learn a little bit more about PCS, but more on that here on the end of the login page. You have this PCS documentation link. PCS documentation will lead you to the CMS page. And CMS page is actually something that we are currently going away from. So CMS is a content management system that R&E used in order to give all the information about PCS. Here in the PCS documentation, you will have some videos, guides, references, and frequently asked questions that can help you understand better how the PCS works. And for that, at the moment, this will stay active and be available to you to find any information about PCS for the upcoming few months. Then please be aware that we are going to put this public information about PCS to another place. So we are going to make sure to give you an information of where that is, but you can always use the PCS documentation links that will lead you then to the right spot when the right spot is changed. How does the PCS documentation look like? First of all, there are some videos that will lead you through some of the information, how to what are the phases, what are the processes, how the labels can be assigned to your work, what kind of searches there are. But please be aware that, of course, since we are changing and upgrading PCS a lot, it might be that some of the things look a little bit different than from what it actually is. The most important place for learning about PCS would be the references. In the references, you will have all the basic information about what is PCS, what are the process types, what are the phases, who are the roles, and what which role can do. And actually, we are going to go through some of the most important things today. However, due to the construction having just a small amount of time to cover the most important things that is important for your work, we are not going to go into depth. So whenever there is something that you would like to learn a little bit more, that will then profound your business and will make you work with PCS much more on a higher level, then we are going to invite you to please go through the documentation, and if you need any help with finding the corresponding information, don't be afraid to ask. We are going to give you exactly the information that you are looking for. Other than references, there is also one part that is the guides, and guides will then show you how to create the dossier, how to add a pub to the existing dossier in harmonization, and so on. Of course, some exercises and some steps will be covered on the trainings today and tomorrow, but everything else you can find here. For example, how to select a pub, how to copy the dossier, and everything else with the guides of what you can do and how you can create information. I would like to now ask you to try to access these test accounts and try to find accounts that we...
Ivana?
Yes.
Excuse me, just one question. I don't
Yes.
remember if the recording of the PCS training, like this morning or this afternoon, will be in the documentation in the video section.
Or over here. We didn't plan on putting it here, and we actually don't have the editing rights anymore to put it here. However, you will get an email from the Corridor OSS, so all the recordings will be shared with you, but not in this section that we are now going to do during
Okay,
the
so
training.
if you want the recording of this morning, we will receive a mail, a link.
Exactly.
This is it.
Exactly.
Okay, thank you, Ivana.
No worries. Yes, I will like to ask you to please try to open this PCS documentation test accounts, and this is also a way how you can approach it. So in the PCS documentation, you can go into the references, and in more information, you will also have this link to the PCS test accounts. So in here, as I said, we will use just control and find. This is the functionality of your own browser to find the DB Cargo Deutschland. This will be the account that I will use on today's beginner session. Of course, this can change, and you can, if you want, follow along by searching for your own company. And if your company is not on the list, please write it also in the chat so we can kind of follow up on that and make sure that you have the account for your company also in this public access page. I will copy this Rade, that is the username of the DB Cargo Deutschland, and I will use it to log in to PCS Test 1. As we said, the password for every single one is this PC5TE5T, or PCS test with a combination of the numbers and uppercase letters. When I log in, this is where I start my first work with PCS. This is also what we called a dashboard. In order to explain a little bit about PCS terminology, I will go through first of all one example of a dossier, and then we are going to explain what you can see on the screen. Before we open the dossier, let me first explain what is the dossier. A dossier is one item in PCS. So first of all, you are always going to be able to open it by pressing on this linked name of the dossier. I will do it in another tab so I can easily approach it. So dossier as a dossier is not really a business structure, but is our PCS technical structure. It contains all the requests in one same place. So you can see here in this outline that this is one train that goes from Karlsruhe across Basel until Luino. And this is one dossier that we have created in some other trainings, and we are going to kind of go through the components of the dossier a little bit later. But you can see here already that all the requests that are connected to this train run is in the same place. And this is why we call it a dossier, or kind of a combination of everything in one place. I open here one link to a dossier, and this is also to show you that if you use a link on the toolbar of your dossier, it can always also bring you to this open use case. And one more important thing in dossier is the dossier ID. Dossier ID is the collection of 6 numbers that is really extremely important for us when we want to help you for every cooperation and exchange with your neighbors. If you state what is the dossier ID in PCS, everybody will know about which PCS information you are talking about. Dossier ID is something that doesn't change, and you can rely that it will always be the same from the beginning until the end of the life cycle of the dossier. When I'm talking about the life cycle of the dossier, let's see what I actually mean. PCS works in so-called phases. Phases of a dossier is some milestones and different parts of the time of the timetable period and the information that is contained from one phase to another. There are multiple phases, and here you can see the phases of the dossier when there is an RFC involved. In the control information of one dossier, you can see who is participating in this dossier, but for the participations, we will talk about a little bit later. Phases is what is really important because it changes who is doing what at which time and who has the editing rights. Open phase is what we call a draft. Open phase is something that when you create a dossier, you can do whatever you want with it. And in this phase, you are the only one seeing this dossier. So it doesn't have the visibility to anybody else who you have put in as a participations. In the harmonization, this is exactly what this word says. It is the phase where the applicants or the RUs harmonize their request in order to send a path request. You can see the difference between the check mark, because that's a real phase, and the path request, which is a milestone phase. Why is it a milestone? Because nothing happens here. When the request is completed in the harmonization phase, then the path request is sent, but if in case of using the PUPs, the next phase is immediate pre-booking. Pre-booking is actually the phase where then the corridors are working in order to see whoever applied for the same PUP, if there are any conflicts, who will win the PUP. Also in the pre-booking, your PUP is assigned to you if there is no need to resolve any conflict. So this is where you get the PUP. After the corridors kind of do this work of pre-location, then we are going into the path elaboration. Path elaboration is IM phase. So infrastructure managers are here in this phase working on the draft offer that is going to be a response to the request that you have placed. Draft timetable is again a milestone because after the path elaboration, IAMs are giving a draft timetable and we are immediately into the phase that we call observation. In observation, our users are kind of seeing what is going on and what was the response to the request. There is a comparison going on. You can see what you got and based on what you requested. And of course, you can place any observations that you might have. Based on the observations, when the observation phase is over, we are going into the post-processing. Post-processing is the phase when after everything is done, IAMs conclude their business and prepare the final offer. And once the final offer is sent, it is a full phase when the RUs or applicants have the possibility to either accept or reject. In order to reject, dossiers can be closed, or if the final offer is accepted, it goes to so-called active timetable. Active timetable is where we have the final path which will be allocated and which will become valid in the running timetable. This is example of a dossier that is already in the active timetable. It means that it went through all of the phases of the dossier and it is now done. After the timetable period ends, then the dossier can also be closed in a way to say, okay, now this part of the business is concluded. When I was saying who is doing what in a dossier, I was also kind of telling you who is the applicant and who is the IAM. So let's just take a step back to learn a little bit more of who is using PCS. In PCS in a dossier, we have applicants who can be RUs or non-RUs. In case of the non-RUs, those applicants have the possibility to assign the RU who will run their business on the path that they request. Then There are also corridors, of course, based on which corridor you are working with. You are going to add one or multiple corridors in your requests. And then, of course, you are placing the request towards one IAM. And of course, if there is an allocation body also involved, then there is a mutual account for those. So allocation bodies are also a part of the PCS. All of those phases are also based on the timetable, on the whole bunch of the deadlines that we need to respect in RNE. And first, I would like to tell you that on the RNE website, which is also a new one and kind of changed, under the downloads section, you will be able to find the timetable period. For you, it is relevant to always open the RFC's calendar. And then in RFC's calendar, you will see what are the deadlines to do some actions. Now we are on the 13th of February, but for example, let's go just a step back. On the 9th of January, it was the first publication of the PUP catalog deadline when the corridors had to publish the PUPs that we are going to use today in the afternoon. Corrections period lasted for 2 weeks, and then on the 23rd of January, everything can be finalized. And now on the 13th of February, we are in the middle of creating the dossiers, and also until the 11th of April, which is today, actually today, this year, is going to be a little bit different. The deadline for placing the PAT request is not the Monday, since it is Easter Monday, but it is Tuesday the 11th, and I would just like to emphasize that please check with your IAMs if there are any discrepancies in those deadlines. Then from the 11th until the 24th of April, we are going to have this phase that we call pre-booking, where the corridors are checking and resolving any conflicts. And then from the 25th of April, we are going to start the late PAT request submission. What does it mean to you? If you place a request that is a little bit late, then your dossier will be treated in the late PAT request process type. You are anyhow going to work with the corridors, so you can rely on their help in making sure that you place the request on time. Corridors are there to assist you, to guide you through this PAT request process, and they are going to make sure that everything that would block you from placing a request on time would actually be treated on time, so that late PAT requests don't happen. If they do, corridors can also help you in checking what does it mean for the late PAT, so late requesting of the PUPs and remaining capacity of whatever is left for you to use. There is one difference between who is participating and who is a leading applicant. In this dossier, there is one leading RU who has a star here. What is then the role of the leading RU is that this applicant is actually responsible for placing a PAT request, meaning putting the dossier from the harmonization into the PAT request, and from PAT request into the pre-booking would be an automatic one. Also, this applicant is responsible for either placing the observation and putting it into the post-processing, but here also automatic one is working, and the corridor OSS is going to assist you on this one too. On the IAM side, we have one IAM who is responsible on the leading, and the one who is only participating. In case of the corridor OSS being part of the dossier, actually this leading role is assigned to the corridors. So when you're using PUPs, corridors are the ones who are putting the dossiers from one phase or to another on behalf of the IAMs. So even though you will see the star here being placed on the DBNets, it doesn't mean that the DBNets will be responsible for putting the dossier from the path elaboration into the draft timetable. It will be the corridors who will do this job for them. However, when you are using the tailor-made dossiers, and this is the term that we are using when there is no usage of a PUP, but it is the dossier that is constructed from zero manually, so the tailor-made, then those roles really are important. In order to, of course, once again, see what is the promotion deadlines and what is the role of each leading applicant, we can go into documentation and you can see which is phase by phase. And also if you open one of the phases, for example, let's open the harmonization phase, you will see also what are the possible transitions. So in each phase of a dossier, we have one document that will tell you, okay, in this phase harmonization, what can be done and by whom. So of course, in harmonization, you can always close your dossier. You can put it in the harmonization conference if you are a passenger, mostly if you are a passenger RUs and you want to go into the feasibility study, or you can place it as a path request when it then goes into the pre-booking, and it always says who does it, so a leading applicant, and what are the restrictions, meaning what needs to be kind of a prerequisite in order for this transition to happen. For example, if the leading applicant wants to send a path request, it has to make sure that all the missing data and mandatory fields must be fulfilled. There is no discrepancy in the calendar, and all applicant lights must be green. Before I go into the explanation of the lights, I would like to show you the information about the PCS automatic promotions that happen also based on some deadlines. In order to access this one, in PCS itself, if you click on the top right corner of your user settings, then you have here the timetable period, where first of all you will see what are the dates and the milestones of a timetable period. For example, the 8-8 is the path request deadline, so you will see exactly what date it is. And if you want to follow how the promotions are going to happen, then you will click on the promotions, and here we have a really nice timeline which will lead you through the whole year, through the whole calendar year, if I may be a little bit more specific. So at the end of each year, we start the timetable period in PCS, and then we go from one phase to another. Let's see now. We will skip for the feasibility study because this is mostly the passenger business. But here it is some of the promotions that will happen on the 11th of April. So you will have the information again that this is a deadline for the path request, for the new path request. You can ignore this TTR new path request for now. It will be hidden very soon. It was just used for one pilot of the TTR process, if you are familiar with that. And during that 11th of April at 3 o'clock in the morning, PCS will check, are there any dossiers where all the lights are green all the dossiers are ready, and this dossier can be promoted to the path request. This question and this promotion and check will be done in the really early morning this day and really end late on this day. It means that if the leading applicant didn't do a manual promotion from the open phase until the path request phase, then PCS will do it for you if all the prerequisites are kind of satisfied. Of course, this doesn't mean that the path request deadline is 1 hour before the midnight. It just means that this is going to be done automatically 1 hour before the midnight. However, until very, very last second of the 11th of April, you can still manually place a path request in PCS. So there is no other time constriction. Then, of course, you can follow all the other daily promotions that PCS is having until the end of the timetable period. When I was speaking about the promotions, I was mentioning the lights. You can see here that, of course, since we are at the end of the life cycle of these dossiers, everybody is kind of green. But let's see the example of when this is not the case. So let's see, for example, this is some of my previous test dossiers, and we can kind of analyze what is happening here. So one participating company has the light on green. It means that their job is finished. RFC light is on yellow. It means that they are currently working. IM light is on blue. It means that this agency still, or this nobody from this agency still opened this dossier. So this is not even checked. And let's see if we have one more example or not. Not really, but the second one is also the red light, and I will show you here on the example of placing a red light. Red light, if when you say that you do not accept something and you put your light to red, saying I do not agree, I object, or I want to stop this process. So here is the fourth light that you will then select if you don't accept the business to go further. Mostly this is used if the IM cannot for any reason respond to your request, but hopefully you will not be needing to place a red light in PCS for any of your business needs. Except those participating agencies and those agencies that are involved in the dossier, we have some additional way of putting the agency inside of the dossier, and that is what we do with the involved agencies. So if we analyze this example, we can see that there are pairs of the applicant and IMs. So DB Cargo Belgium in Infrabel, DB Cargo Deutschland in DBNet, and DB Cargo Schweiz in SBB. And those are some of the business pairs. However, if there is a need, for example, to involve some Italian colleagues, for example, because at the end of this business, after the Switzerland part, we are going to go into Italy. And in case that is some business connection, but you do not want to place this request yet, you can give access to this dossier to your Italian colleagues. So how to do that is, of course, you will put them in the the production only agencies and give them reading rights. Production only agencies are for the applicant's part, or if you want to inform RFI about this dossier, then you will add IM agency in the read only IM. Give me just a second, please. There are also, as I said, these responsible RUs and gray agencies. Those are the two things that we will not go into more depth today. Responsible RU part is something that we are going to just cover on the advanced session on the day 2. For the gray agencies, those are the agencies that do not have access to PCS, so they are just placed as a participating agency, just so the other requests can go further. One more thing about the dossier that is important, and I will go back to the one that is already in the active timetable, is that there are multiple timetables in the dossier. Applicant timetable is what we call the place where the requests are. So there was a request for DBNet and the request for SBB infra, and those were then in the applicant timetable. In the IM timetable is where you will find the responses. You can see here already that there are some differences, and this is made intentionally, because even though the applicant requested all the days from 1 to 4, the IM responded in 2 different responses. One was, of course, 1 to 4 without February, and then there is 1 to 4 only for February. This is only for example, but you can see already the structure of a PCS dossier that will tell you, okay, there are actually 2 responses in the same business case for any reason that it might have. The reason can, of course, be some kind of reroutings. The reason can be that during some special times of the calendar, you need to start earlier or leave later or something like that. So there is a little change in your train and run on a specific dates, but nevertheless, this is still the same train that you're running. There is also a C-OSS timetable, and in C-OSS timetable is where you will see if C-OSS needed to offer you any alternative solution, alternative offer, if you were the not the loser, but if you didn't win the priority of the PUP, and there is some maybe use case or a better prearranged path that you could use for your business needs. So really important is that based on the IM timetable, where actually the offer is where the contract will at the end be placed. So don't forget that even though whatever is in the applicant timetable was your request, after the PAT request is sent, then the most relevant one is the IM timetable, and in the IM timetable you will get the information that you will then later accept for any contract and contractual relationship that you will have with this IM. There is one term in PCS that is called territory, and territory is nothing else but the combination of the applicant and the IM. So that's a pair that forms a territory. You have to really be aware that PCS is actually really a free tool, and you can do whatever you want in here. Of course, PCS is guiding you so that that doesn't happen, that there is some discrepancy and there are some maybe wrong inputs. However, it is really important to know that you will be able to do whatever you want in PCS, and you need to kind of be aware of what locations you're placing in which territories. Let me just find one dossier here with multiple applicants. Okay, here it is. So you can see how PCS formed the territories in this use case. So there was one territory with DB Cargo Belgium with the Infrabel. There was one territory with DB Cargo Deutschland with DBNets, and there was one territory with DB Cargo Switzerland and SBB. And this is actually then how PCS is operating. You can see that there are changes in the colors of each territory, so it is easily recognizable what territory we are talking about. So the third one is purple, and in the outline over here you can see really the full journey of this train. And if you click on any of the outline parts, it will highlight the territory that you are working with. So pink, green, or purple. And everything in PCS then after the open phase is based on the territories. Why is this important? In PCS, in open phase, everything is just a draft. And the leading applicant, you can see here that is DB Cargo Deutschland, has the full right to modify all the territories that are in this dossier. However, once the harmonization is placed, it is as if you would tell to PCS, okay, now every territory is divided, and really, indeed, all the agencies are responsible for their own part. How you can also see that this takes effect is that since I am here DB Cargo Deutschland, and we are here in this example in harmonization phase, then I cannot edit the territory that is not mine. I am part of the German territory, so DB-Netz and DB Cargo Deutschland, and I cannot do any changes anymore on first territory. Here, yes, I can. So this is really important for you to know, and those are questions that we usually really get a lot of times. Okay, I am the leading applicant and I would like to change something on the origin of my train, but I'm no longer in charge. Why can I not do it? And the answer is because you are most probably in the harmonization phase, and in harmonization phase, then your partner has to be responsible for any changes. So the only thing that you can do is call your partner agency and ask them to do any changes that you might need as the leading applicant. However, I would like to also point out that you are not able to go back to the draft. So as much work and as many changes that you can do in the open phase to make sure that your business, because you are the leading applicant in this business use case, is covered, that the times are correct, locations are there, and everything that you want to have in within your hands, please do that in the open phase, because in the open phase you can. In the harmonization, no longer. And it is also important to kind of point out that you cannot go back from harmonization in the draft, because the only thing that the PCS is offering you is to close the dossier, to send the PAT request, of course, once all the informations are resolved, and maybe start a new phase. This is the consulting phase for the feasibility study that is not really used in the cargo business, but nevertheless it can be started. So no possibility to go from harmonization into the open. From the terminology point of view, in one territory, you can have multiple what we call subpaths. Subpaths, or S1, S2, and how many there are actually the combination of your traffic. So one subpath is at the end of the day one request. So here in this territory for Infrabel, there are 2 requests towards Infrabel. In DBNets, we have 4. It means that for some reason you would need to change on some certain days a certain information that then makes it different from the first one. It is really useful to know that you can rename your subpaths. So even though it is default by default, of course, you can name the subpath whatever you want, and by that you will be much more likely to recognize what this is about. So let's say that if this one is only on Sunday and I rename it to Sunday only, origin destination or something like that, that will tell me what it is, then PCS takes over this name of the subpath in consideration, and you will have it connected to the content of this request. Subpaths are also something that you can rearrange. So of course it is a little bit weird that you're talking about the Sunday on the second place. So if you kind of rearrange it so that the Sundays are going to be the last one and Saturdays are going to be the second to last, then it's kind of a little bit easier to read, and then you will see that there are some requests on the working days, something on Wednesday, Saturday and Sunday, and you can see that the name of the subpath remained the same, but the number is chronological. So if I have placed the last content at the end, then of course chronologically PCS will call it subpath 4, but the name and the combination that this is only Sundays remains the same. So this is something that you can do only within the territory that you are in charge of. Of course, you cannot do any changes again in harmonization to your neighboring territories, except of course in the open phase. What we call in PCS path section is nothing else than the location. So here we have also a pub, and this is something that you can already see, but Anna will show you in the afternoon. If you're using a pub, you can visually see that there are dark gray information about this one, or there is no borders on this pub because this is a tailor-made. We said that the tailor-made is something that is done manually, that is not part of the pre-construction. There is also a light blue indication, and light blue is telling you more about the flexible pubs, but this differentiation is what you will learn in the afternoon. But nevertheless, every request is contained out of the multiple locations, or how we call it in PCS, path sections. Why this is important to highlight is because this is exactly you will get what you will get in the editing of this timeline that you have. You are going to add the path sections, and that just means adding a location between those two. For example, Aachen and Troisdorf. In between, you can add some other location or path section. What PCS is showing you is in each timetable. So if you have multiple here, you have the territories, you have the territories calendar, you have the path variance, and you have path variance calendar. This is a little difference between what you have placed and what PCS has calculated. So let's go through those tabs now here. So here you have the territories we explained, and in the territories you have the timetable of your requests. So what are the arrival dates, what are the departure dates, what times are on each of those so is it arrival or departure? And you have the calendar here that shows you on which calendar days is this request running. So if I choose the first subpath of one territory, I see with green on which territories this is, on which days this is running. Wednesdays will show me only Wednesdays, Saturdays, Sundays, but it all depends on what you have selected. Validity period is also something interesting. By default, validity period is here from the first day of the timetable period 2024, what we are now speaking about, until the last day of the timetable period before the shift on the Sunday. However, there is one thing also called traffic period, and this is if IAM, for example, creates a traffic period because of some TCRs, so there are some maintenance parts of the calendar that they want to kind of make sure that you need to request something else, then they would create a timetable or traffic period. And if you select some of those, you can see that PCS kind of pre-fills the days with those. They do not exist in each IM. So you can also help yourself if you want to create a traffic period for yourself to have kind of easier fulfillment of multiple dossiers. But as I said, the default validity period is from the first day until the last day of the timetable period. Timetable period is really tricky, and this is something that we will cover also in the advanced sections, because even though in PCS it is really constrained, so there is nothing on the 9th of December. In real life, of course, even though the timetable changes, there are some traffics on the day before, so it might be that there is some spatial behavior that you will need to assign to how PCS dossiers and requests are created in order to bypass this kind of constriction that PCS has. There are parameters of your requests. I will cancel this change. There are parameters that each request has, and we will go into the creation of one dossier just a couple of minutes now, where you will see how the parameters are placed, but it is important to already now say that there are two groups of parameters. There are, first of all, parameters that are important for the timetable. So who is the owner IM and who is the IM who is responsible for construction? What are the activity types and what are the location types? Then we have the common tray parameters of each timetable period. Common train parameters of each location. And we have the IM parameters. We will go in more detail of what they mean and where you can find the information about those when we are going to construct a dossier. Okay, now we are going to go back from the dossier into the PCS itself. We already kind of showed the information about your user account, and here there are some settings that you can adjust, but I would like to really point out that please do every adjustments only on the PCS online, because we said that everybody can use this account that is public one. So if you change something, and I will do it for the demonstration of purpose, I will change this language to German. First of all, is to tell you that, of course, PCS is available or on multiple languages. So, of course, all the information about what you can do in PCS, information about timetables, they all exist here in German. However, now I have changed that for everybody who logged in with this account. And this is something that I would like to ask you not to do, because whatever you do on the test accounts will be affect to everybody who is using it. So we will always have the English as a language for the personal settings in test 1. What else can be done on your user level? First of all, of course, you can change your password. You can provide more information about your contacts details, and more importantly, what you can personally set up in order to make PCS really serve your purposes and make sure that PCS is working in a way that you would like to do it. So you can change the language. You can here put the visibility of the filters, and we will see what filters I'm talking about. You can subscribe for email notifications. So in the online environment, we are sending the emails based on some activities that are happening in PCS. For example, when the offer is sent for a dossier, you can get an email notification, so you can then check it. So that you can then check it based on the notification and not need to refresh the PCS itself over and over. By default, you are subscribed to all of the notifications, but of course, if you do not want to get a notification once a dossier is closed, you can deselect it and we will not send you this notification anymore. You can also set how many entries per page you will see. We have it here for 100, just so you can see as much results of every search and every criteria that you based. And what is the default dossier view? You saw that when we open the dossier, there are multiple information that you can see about it. If you change here the default dossier view, then, for example, if you put it into applicant, and we will test this out, then each dossier that I open will open in this view of the dossier. PCS has some comparison options, and it is for every applicant agency by default created that you compare the applicant to the IM, because this is mostly what you would like to do. However, when we get to the place where you will see that there are some comparisons, you can create that this default comparison is working in a different way. For example, if you are in the part of the pre-booking, when the corridor OSS is working, it might be useful for you to compare your request with what C-OSS has maybe offered as alternative to you. Or maybe it would be useful for you to see, okay, now I have got an alternative for my request, but I want to see what I am offered in comparison to what the alternative I kind of accepted. So this is the place where you can change your default comparison actions. What we have now changed is that Dossier default view will be applicant timetable, and once again I will now change it for everybody who is using this Rade account. And let's see what I got. So when I open now Dossier, I'm immediately brought to the applicant timetable. So this is the result of my default setting that was placed on the user settings. Okay, now we are going to go back to the PCS and teach you what you can work with after the creation of your dossier. So first of all, I said that this is the main dashboard that opens upon logging in. Dashboard first is providing you the option to search quickly for some information that you can approach already from one-liner, and you can put here the dossier ID, this 6-digit number that I highlighted is really important, or if you want to put the name of the dossier, the international train number, or even the POP ID or catalog ID over here. So this is what we call the quick search. There is also an advanced search that will give you much more information and much more options. I clicked here on the reset because I want you to start from zero. However, be aware that whatever you searched last is saved on your account. So next time you approach the advanced search, PCS will preload your latest search. So this is something that might be really helpful for you, especially because PCS in advanced search is giving you options to explore even more than it is originally and by default placed. How to access more information is with more. If I click on show all, you will see how many more information and criteria for search there is. Most important are, of course, the dossiers ID, what is the timetable period, because you can search from the archive too, what is the process type, and the process type is something that I mentioned when we were checking the calendar. So we are now going to work in the new path request that is until the 11th of April. Then there is also the feasibility study, if you are placed any feasibility study, late path request, and of course after the late path request we go into the ad hoc path request. There are of course process types that are happening after the allocation, like path alteration and path modification, but more on that in the upcoming hours. You can search by the phases, so in which phase is your dossier currently. This is useful, for example, if you are in closer to the path request deadline, you want to search for all your dossiers that are still in the harmonization phase. It means that the result of this search, and let's check it, will be all the dossiers that you still need to work on in order to place a path request. So this is how you would extend your search needs for the next action that you need to do. I will reset it just once because there is one interesting criteria of a search that might be useful for you, and I would like to highlight it. In more, if I just scroll to the very bottom, I will see a multiple selection of the search criterias. There is one thing that is called participants and acceptance indicator. Acceptance indicator is the lights. So green, yellow, red. So if I do this, if I put in all the participants and all the acceptance indicators, what will PCS give me? That I want to see all the dossiers that DBNet is involved, and I want to see all dossiers that there is something that is not yet processed or the light is yellow. So I will search for that one. And the result is actually giving me all the dossiers where DBNet is participating. Yes, this is the result where DBNet is participating and where the light is on yellow. Yes, this is the result where the light is on yellow, but the light of the DB Cargo Deutschland is on yellow. So if you want to find out what are the dossiers where DBNet is having a light on yellow, you have to remove those two and include this last one that is a combination of two. So participants and the acceptance criteria. So now when I do the search, now it means that DBNet's light is on yellow, not any dossier with DBNet being there and any light being yellow, but especially the DBNet's light. So I do not expect that with this new criteria, I will get this result. So let's see. Sorry. This is the yellow light. I apologize. Being processed is the yellow light. So now I see exactly the information when DBNet has the light on yellow. I will reset now the search so that everybody who is using this will have it as a default by default. Interesting thing is about the grid. And grid in PCS is something you will always have after every search. Here we have a grid of the quick search and the grid that is result of those filters on the left side. So let's focus a little bit on grid. First of all, in the columns, you can put in the information that you care about and maybe not put the information that you don't care about. So columns information is also for you to kind of personalize how and where you want to see them. Maybe interesting one is that there is a difference between the traffic lights extended and the traffic lights. Traffic lights are only showing you little dots, while the traffic light extended shows you also the name of the agency who is behind the light. So this is something that for the beginners, we always advise you to put in the traffic lights extended and not use the traffic lights because it will give you much more information. Of course, at the later stages, if you get used to it, you can put the second option because it's a little bit saving you time place on the screen. But for now, we will keep with the traffic light extended. This column selection also stays saved based on where we are. We are now in the recent activity, so whenever you approach recent activity, it will be how you have set it up. You can rearrange the columns, so if it is really important for you to see the name of the dossier first, and then let's say that you want to see what traffic timetable period is after the lights, you can rearrange it. You can make it smaller or a little bit more information on the screen based on your preferences. If you select multiple information here, first of all, this checkbox selects everything that is now on the screen. Here we have 8 items, and of course, you can shift between only this page and all pages. Now with the 8 items, we don't really have multiple pages, so let's correct that. Here I can see that I chose to see 100 results. per one page. So if I put on the 5, I have 2 pages with 8 results. If I select here only this page, it means that I have selected only these 3 items, and those from the first page will not be selected. So if I do that again and put all pages, then I expect the second page to also be selected. This is an important function of PCS that will help you in the downloads of those informations. Here on the top part, you can see that you can manipulate this data in a certain way. So selecting all items on all pages or only one page, it is important for the export of this data. You can, of course, use PCS on the graphical user interface and do all of your work here, but you can also export your data and maybe do some corrections or checks of the quality of your data in exported information on some other screen. Maybe you like to print it out, or however you like to operate to make sure that your work is as efficient as possible. Selecting some of the items will then enable the buttons that are disabled in case this is not applicable. So if I want to download information about PCS training tests and select the PDF download, you can see what will be exported. So on each of those dossiers, you will get an export of the applicant, IM timetable, C-OSS timetable, feasibility study timetable if it exists, and the comments. So all of those. I will cancel this one because I do not want to trigger it now. And I want to show you that there is also an Excel export. What is the difference? So PDF export means that you will actually export information about this dossier. So as if I have opened it and reading it. So this is the information that you will export. All the information about the timetables, so all the information about the locations and times. And you can also do such an export one by one with this click of a button. So in the basic data with the export. And now I will confirm it. Okay, and you can see here that it is opening and showing me the information of the dossier that I have just chose to export. It is a lot of pages because all the information about all locations are there. If you do it from the dashboard, from the grid, this PDF export will export actually a zip file of all those individual PDFs. Excel export is a little bit different. Excel export is something that if you do it from the grid, it will show you the information of the grid. So it will show you the name of the dossier, what are the traffic lights, what is the timetable, what are the labels, and it also depends, of course, on everything that you have here selected as a filter or sorting option. Excel exports can be named in a certain way, and you can make it a personal or a public one. The public one is actually based on the agency level. So if you want to create an export and make sure that all of your colleagues can also access it, then don't click personal. If you want to do an export only visible to your own account, then make it personal. And if I confirm this one, you will see the information that the requested report creation has started, and you will receive an email when this will be ready for download. email is received only in the online production. So here in the test system, there is no sending of the email in order not to confuse and spam people who are maybe put in as a receiver of the email, but are not working on the test. Where you can find those exports is on the drop down of the My Dashboard. So let's go to the top of the PCS. In the My Dashboard, you have first here the link to the dashboard, of course, and you have here the Dossier Wizard. Dossier Wizard and this bottom New Dossier are the first things for you to do if you want to create a tailor-made dossier, and PCS will then open this Dossier Wizard that will lead you from one to another step of the dossier creation. And we will do it in the last minutes of this beginner's training. Then there is downloads. Downloads is the place where all the exports that you have created is kind of available. So let's see if by now this information is already here. We can see here that there was a test export of the PCS PDF dossiers, and the zip file was created. This is triggered by somebody else, not me. But let's see if now my export will also be there. It usually takes a couple of minutes. Okay, maybe we have triggered too many already now. But okay, let's not wait for it and lose any more time. This is where you will have the exports that you have triggered. You can see that there are some lists of the previous exports that were triggered for some activity types and the information that was previously available. Or today there was the export of the PDF files in a zip file. Let's go back to the dashboard. And what is the second? Actually, we didn't check this one. In the My Dashboard, there are the bulk editing options. So you can change the acceptance indicators or the lights manually one by one in each dossier. So if I open here now one dossier that is in the phase open or harmonization, then in control, I can change the lights one by one. Of course, now I cannot do it for the green light because I haven't corrected anything. I can change the lights manually, one by one. However, if I choose the bulk editing, then I can do it for some dossiers in a bulk. The only thing that I need to do here is say in which phase I want to finish. So if I want to put some dossiers in harmonization, change some lights in the dossier is in harmonization, then I need to select the phase that where I want to do it. And then PCS will show me all the dossiers where I can change the indicators to a specific color. This is how you will do it then for all of the dossiers in one click, except instead of opening one by one and changing one by one. What else you can do in bulk? You can promote the dossiers to the next phase. How this search is working is that you need to select the process type that you are in and the promotion of what you want to do. So I want to promote this dossier to releasing harmonization. So PCS will show me only the dossiers that are kind of eligible for this option. I can go into the harmonization only after the draft in open. So only the dossiers in open will be available here. This is the same one for the closed dossiers. If I want to close the dossier, I will see all the dossier where this is possible. And of course, it is also possible to close the dossier from the harmonization. So now all the harmonization dossiers are also here. In order to execute some of the information is that let's do this and that one. I will choose which one I want to promote and promote them. I need to give the action a reason because I'm closing those dossiers. And then PCS will tell me that this bulk promotion is in progress and I need to wait until this is finished in order to actually continue further. This is a new thing in PCS since last year. You are no longer you cannot longer do multiple bulk promotions in the same time. You need to do it one by one. You can trigger another version of bulk editing at the same time, but not the same one. And now, actually, if you remember, there was a dossier with the name 3333, international train number, and there is it is no longer here because we have already closed it. So this is how you can speed up your process. For example, the advice is that you create all of your dossiers and put all of your informations with the parameters and everything, and then just use this bulk acceptance indicator change in order to put all the lights to green in one go and save some time with working with PCS. The last one is the carry forward. I will not go into much more depth about this, but carry forward is if you want to reuse what you have created in the last timetable period, then you select here the last two available timetable periods, find the dossier that you have created last year and carry it forward to the next timetable period. This is only the copy from one timetable period to another. Speaking about the copy, there is another copy within the dossier, and this one works only within the same timetable period. So that's the difference. If you want to copy across the timetable periods, then you use the bulk editing of carry forward. If you want to copy the dossiers within the same timetable period, then you copy it within the dossier with this copy the dossier icon. Okay. And the last thing on the dashboard before we go into the pre-constructed products and administration is the filters and the labels. Filters are here to kind of group some of the dossiers together. By default, you will always get the default filters from PCS that will be all 2024. It means that for these ones, and you can expand the search criteria here, is that the timetable period is 2024 and all possible phases of the dossiers are here inside. Others should react have more information about it. So what does it mean is that you have done your work and you have placed the light to green, for example, but others should react. It means that my traffic light is green, I'm done, but others are either blue, yellow, or red. It means that those other companies have not placed the light on green yet. This is where you can then check who are you waiting for. Is there somebody who you need to call by phone and say, oh, by the way, I noticed that there is a green, the yellow light, and we need to place a path request. Can you go in PCS and do it? So this is how you would use this filter. Then my unresolved 2024 is, you can see by the criteria of this filter, in the timetable period 2024, your traffic light is either blue, yellow, or red. So I did not resolve it yet. So it means that this filter you will use, for example, if there are some dossiers that you still need to work on and resolve them. There is a possibility to add your own filter, and how to add it is by the advanced search criteria. I will use this example that I showed you with the participants and acceptance indicators. DB-nets for being processed or yellow light. So correction on this one. If I save this as a new filter, I can say that DB-nets still working. And if I save it and I go into the main page, by the way, clicking on PCS logo is always the fastest way to open the dashboard of PCS. So I will see at the end of the list that this new filter is now here, and I can rearrange these filters also, for example, to put it a little bit on top. And let's expand the criteria. So in the timetable period 2024, there is one dossier where DB-nets is still working, meaning the lights of the DB-nets is on yellow. This is how you would create your own filters. And one more interesting thing to do is the labels. So each dossier, you can assign a label to it. How could that be useful for you? For example, let's see this one. This is the dossier that is about the train that goes through Frankfurt. So if I go into the basic data, I can here create a label that is, let's see, does it exist? Not really. So I can edit. So Frankfurt business. And if I add this label, now it means that this one is something on Frankfurt. And this label appears on the list here based on the order of creation. And if I select it, then I will see all the dossiers that have this label assigned. Use case for this one would be, for example, if you work in multiple departments, then you can assign filters to multiple dossiers that are, for example, 5 dossiers are for one border crossing, the 10 dossiers are for another border crossing, or so on. You can expect also that soon there will be a possibility to color your labels in a couple of weeks. So if you edit a label like this, you can edit the name, you can edit the description, and soon you will also be able to edit the colors. You can see that I have now edited the name And if I hover over it, I can see also when I expanded the description. You can share your labels. So if there are some new colleagues that are arriving to your company, you can share this with the colleagues that are registered in your company. Now we are using DB Cargo, and this is the list of some names in the DB Cargo company. Your list will be depending on the list of the names of your colleagues. And you can select multiple or deselect them. And this is also a great time to show you what this number option in PCS does and how it works. So if you click on the number 4, first of all, you see here everybody. On the top, you see the selected names. But if you click on the number 4, PCS will show you only the selected part. So it is easier to deselect some of the users. Or again, if you go back to writing or in the input field, then you are back to seeing all of the numbers, all of the choices, sorry. So this is how this function of PCS also works. Then we have on top the information about the pre-constructed products. This is where we will begin the intermediate part of the training in the afternoon. So I will skip it a little bit and go directly to administration. Administration is, first of all, where you will find the reference data. Reference data is something that will be really useful for you in order to see for your IM what information is kind of required from you. I will go into the reference data and open each one of those. There is activity types. There is common mandatory parameters, IM parameters, locotypes, and operation points. First of all, what does it mean? Activity types is the list of the activities that each IM has registered for the next timetable period. However, you can see here 47 activity types that are predefined by RNE on the central level for everybody for every timetable period. DPNets didn't register any additional activity type. However, let's see SBB. SBB has the 47 predefined. However, there are also 4 individual ones. So in DBNet's territories, when you reach, when you create the dossiers in DBNet's territories, in the SBB territories, you will have 4 more activity types to select from the drop-down list. This is what this reference data means. In administration, we also have the common mandatory parameters. Each IM at the beginning of November, before we start with the new timetable period opening in PCS, creates their own set of information that they would like that they are active for the next timetable period. One of those is also common mandatory parameters. We said that there are some train parameters available in PCS, so let's see a little bit about which one of those are mandatory. For example, locotype and the traction mode, as well as the train weight and length and the weight and length of carriages set, is something that is by default mandatory for everybody. However, let's see, for example, route class or container profile. Those fields can be, for example, optional for ADIF, because ADIF created it like this. Let's see situation with Infrabel. Infrabel has set the container profile as mandatory, but only when the traffic type of freight train is combined traffic. But what is this one? This one is the IM parameter. So first, let's summarize it. In the common mandatory parameters, there is a set of the parameters that each IM can say, are they mandatory or are they optional? And they have a set of parameters that are important only for them. So in Infrabel, there are two parameters that this IM needs to have for each path section for you to give them information about. So if I open here, you can see that this traffic type of freight train can be block train, loaded, block train empty, combined traffic, or single wagon loads, or as a fifth option, empty rolling stock. So this is a single choice, and the Infrabel is requesting that those who request paths in their territory give the information to. Let's see what's the situation in DBNets. In DBNets, you have to find a much more, you have to give much more information that are then either mandatory or optional. And there is a difference. There is a difference between having the IM parameters on the path section, meaning for each location, or on a dossier level. For example, the ID of the customer or kundenbestellnummer is something that you don't have to put in on every location, because if you do it on the dossier level, it is enough. All the requests in that dossiers will have the same information. So this is where you can see in administration what additional information you need to provide for your IM. The more easier one is also the operation points. So let's see, in Belgium, the list of operation points that are valid are the following. And this is the list of operation points that we synchronize from a database called CRD. So in case there are some locations that are missing from the list and you would like to request a certain location, please have in mind that we don't do it in PCS, but we do it in a way that you contact the IM directly. IM creates the new location if it's indeed missing into the database called CRD, and then we are reading it on a daily basis. So if the IM does this work throughout the day, the next day this location will be on the list in PCS. The last reference data is also a really tricky one, an important one, and it's called locotypes. The list of locos that you can select from for your path request is of course changing also each timetable period based on the list that this IM has provided. I will maybe search for this one. You see here that some locos in the series number, here it is, the series number field, has some letters, spaces, multiple digits, and this is something that previously it was possible to register the loco like this. Of course, this is still a good way to register loco, it doesn't matter, but more and more IMs are going in the direction of registering the loco on the base of the TAF-TAF TSI standard. And this standard says that locus needs to have 4-digit series number and 3-digit serial number that is saying something about the version or a variant of this locus. And let's see an example of DBNets, what that meant for them. Previously on DBNets, national ID, and how it is in TPN, for them it is in the national system like this. However, on PCS level, they need to put it on a different structure. The good thing is that we allow the IAMs to keep the national ID and explanation available to you. So for example, if I want to search for a loco that is actually Trax loco, I will get the list of everywhere where in explanation there is Trax. And this is what can help you actually locate the loco that you are searching for. For example, let's say that 6185 is the loco that we will like to use later in our dossier. And I will write it down somewhere so we don't forget that we used this one. So this is the number that you would use, or you can later also use this Trax name or whatever is in the national ID. So when you are going to search for loco in PCS, when you are going to create a dossier, then you can use whichever you want, and PCS will give you the correct result, and you can select the loco that you want to have. Have in mind that this number 6185, it doesn't mean that this is a valid loco in SBB. Let's see. So I will clear my explanation, and this is also one action that you should always do, always clear all the filters that you have. And let's see if SBB registered any loco under this number, and the result is no. There is no loco that is under this number. This means that if you have a request going through multiple countries, you will need to make sure that you know under which number has SBB registered some trucks loco. And we had this electric one, so let's say that this is this one 1063. So this one will be valid for DBNets, and this one will be valid for SBB in case I want to use the same Trax loco on both territories. So this is how this administration part will help you. There is one more new thing for this administration part, and that's the export of the administration and the reference data. So if you select here all of the locos from SBB, you can download so info about locos SBB. This export, and you will get all the locos in an Excel sheet, and it might be easier for you to find it if you have it, I don't know, printed next to yourself on the table, or just, for example, only trucks. This page, SBB locos trucks. Then you will get a report only of those two locos. That will be, and then easier for you to find only the ones that you want. In administration, we have a template manager, but we don't really have time to go into that one. It is something to help you speed up your working with PCS. and the traffic periods. Acceptance of the general terms and conditions. This is something that Anna will explain to you in the intermediate part of the training, but it is also really important for you to accept the general terms and conditions per corridor when you are requesting on this corridor. Okay. Good. We are now at 11:52, and I will just need 1 minute of break for just a sip of water, and then we are going to go quickly through one creation of the dossier. This means that it will last a little bit longer than until 12 o'clock, but all of those of you who cannot stay, feel free to exit the training when you need to exit, and we will share the recording of the creation of the dossier. It will be quick and with some information about the tailor-made, while you are just then with Anna going to start creating the dossier from the pub search, which is actually a little bit curated to your business needs.
We have a question from Dino.
Yes.
He raised his hand.
Yes.
Yeah, sorry. First of all, Ivona, I'm sorry you have a throat issue. And
Sorry.
secondly, how is this about to continue? Because if we all are logged in as Rade account DBB, DBNets, wouldn't it be conflicts in
Good
the
question.
trainings?
Good question, because how we planned on continuing in the next iteration of the intermediate and also the creation of the dossier is that you are all going to create your own dossier. So even though you are now all logged in with the same account, when you are creating your own dossier, you don't get into the business of your colleagues.
Okay, thank you.
Welcome. Okay, then give me a minute and we will continue in 1 minute with a quick creation of the dossier that is going to be a tailor-made one. Okay, I hope you are ready to continue a couple of more minutes. It will last no more than 10 more. And sorry for this prolongation of your time. We will make sure to finish in 10 minutes wherever we reach, so that you can have your lunch before the intermediate part of the training. So we are going to create a dossier, as it was really interesting question from Dino. Since we are all using the same account, we would usually kind of be one person, let's say it like this. However, in this use case, we are going to create a dossier that you are going to name as however you want, and the result will be a standalone object in PCS. So whatever you do within the dossier, you will do only on your own dossier. So of course, PCS is capable of supporting multiple actions in the same time. It might be that some actions are a little bit more longer, but nevertheless, it is going to be possible. I'm going to send in the chat one table that we are going to actually use. And it will show you the origin and destination that we are going to try to do. We are going to go, and let's see it here, it's a little bit more visible, from Mannheim across the Baselbad into Chiasso. So we are going to be parts of the two territories, DBNets and SBB territory, and with a couple of locations only. And this is only to kind of show you how to manage two locations in PCS. So how to first of all start the new dossier? Easiest is with the click of the new dossier button. So here we are opening this create new dossier wizard, and this wizard has multiple steps, 7 in total, that will lead you, and the result will be at the end your first dossier. You can name it whatever you want. I like to start with my initials and test from Mannheim until Chiasso, RFC online testing, for example. This is the name that you can write in whatever you want. The name can change, so everybody who has editing rights can adjust the names. So it is usual that if there is some mistake or the IAMS should add something to the, for example, the OTN at the end that will be valid or something like that, it is possible to edit the name not only in this part, but also after the dossier is created. International train number is something that you can use if you want, and if you have already the international train number that is allocated to you. But it is also an optional field, so you don't have to do. One thing that I forgot to mention, and this is something that was a question in the chat as I saw, is that there is this red asterisk that is telling you that this field is required. What does it mean required? Without fulfilling this red field, you cannot continue. You cannot go into the next step. If you put in the data, the button is enabled, so you can continue from there. There are some predefined things for the cargo applicant. For example, the timetable period now is 2024, and if you shift to the 2023, then the process types that are possible on the 13th of February 2023 for the current running timetable is, of course, the ad hoc path request and the rolling planning. So this is really important. We are going to choose 2024, of course, and we are going to go in, have the train type that is going to be cargo. Differently from your last years, you have here multiple train types. We would like to ask you to, first of all, with PUBs, you are anyhow going to have a default train type cargo. However, if you want to create a dossier like this from beginning as a tailor-made, you can choose whatever train type you want. We would like to ask you to check with your IAMs if they accept different train types. So is it okay if you want to request a locomotive request in PCS? This is something that really has to be done in accordance on the business needs and the business rules. So we are going to go and continue with the cargo being default. Of course, the process type that is here is a new path request, and the dossier type is by default. Train ID is something that is important for all of those who are working with the TAFTAP DSI. If you don't work with the TAFTAP DSI, we are going to ask you to please leave it empty. Train ID is not international train number, is not operational train number. It is an identifier of the TAFTAP DSI standard. And if you don't know how to fulfill it, PCS will do it for you. So don't put anything inside. We are going to continue to the second step of the create new dossier. And here we are going to do the first train run, I would say it like this. And there you see that there are some red, yellow, and green check marks. It means that some red things you have to do right away. Some yellow ones you can leave for the later stages of the dossier, and this is exactly what we are going to do. And some things are predefined already. And that's the new thing from this year. Activity type and location type is something that you would put in already now when you are putting in the times. Previously, it was part of the train parameters, now not anymore. Okay, we are going to, as I put in the chat, start at Mannheim. Doesn't matter which one, I will choose the first Hauptbahnhof. And you will see here, first of all, that PCS removed the location type none. By default, none location type is here for every other IM except DBNets because of the previous mandatory fields of that one. Activity type can and does not have to be created, but we are going to just say, for example, that this is a commercial stop and it has an origin location type. So this is something that you can already fulfill. We are going to start at 10 o'clock in the morning, and the interesting thing is that if I just type 10, it will be enough. So PCS will fulfill 10:00 until the end. You can see here that there is a difference between owner IM, who is DBNets, and actually who is responsible for constructing this point. In the dossier wizard, owner IM is what PCS is basing the information about which IM is responsible. So automatically, the owner IM is put in here in the DBNets being responsible for construction of this time on this location. It does not have to be like this. So if there is a need for you to change this, you can feel free and change it to some other IM who needs to construct on the Mannheim. Of course, Mannheim is a bad example. But there is one difference, and it is regarding how the handovers are constructed in PCS. So first of all, we have stations as real stations and state borders. Those are two different points from the primarily location codes type, and those are also different from what is selectable in PCS. So if you select a station, it is kind of clear to whom it belongs to, but it doesn't mean that the construction of the path is until that station. In PCS, we are going to work mostly with the state borders, and that's just the table on the path that says welcome to Switzerland. So that's just not a station, it's just a table on a state border. And how we do that is that we have the same location on the one side of the border point and the same location on the other side of the border point, and they each belong to the corresponding IM. And this is how we will construct the path now. However, there is another way of creating handover times, and that is that DBNets constructs until the station that is already in Bane, Denmark. So this is something that works a little bit different. So even though this location might be under the ownership of another IM, DBNets will construct the time until there. So how this is constructed is that in the DBNets territory, you would need to create this location with the arrival time. And on another side, you would need to create the same location with the departure time. As we said, we are going to do this example when we are going to have a state border, and we are going to create it with the run-through times. So one territory will have the run-through on one side, and the other will have the run-through on another side. Let's just put it in. So there will be one location, Offenburg, in the middle. And the first Basel-Bad Bahnhof that will belong to DBNets. You can see here that I can already select two different ones, but so Basel-Bad that belongs to DBNets or Basel-Bad in SBB part. I want to first finish the DBNets part, so I will select that one. And the next path section that I will add with the button, I will put the SBB one. So now I'm starting a new territory, new country, new pairs of the IM and applicant. And since I have chosen the SBB version, PCS has placed the SBB as an owner, of course, but also the responsible one. And what PCS now tells me is that each territory must contain at least two locations. So this is how I will now add the second location on the Basel-Bad, on the SBB territory, sorry, and that will be Chiasso. On the SBB infra part. You can see here that PCS is requesting that either arrival or departure will be a required field. But how we now learned, when we have activity type that is run through, first of all, I can find it with the name, or 40, that is a code for run through. So both activity types are run through. There is interchange on the DBNets part. So I have to put in the same time, and how I have placed in the chat, we are going to use 12:30 as a departure time on the Basel and the departure time on the Basel. They need to match. And on the advanced session, we will show you what happens and how to correct if you do something differently and something that is not expected by PCS side. So this is how we created the handover. information about the handovers are that there is no help from PCS about this one. So you need to kind of know what are the locations, either the state borders or the border stations, that you need to place in PCS in order to construct your from origin to destination path. So this is something that you need to kind of know in advance before you go and put information in PCS. Now I will just continue with this one. And this is where we now see the information that DBNets is asking and SBB is asking on the dossier level. First of all, I would like to point out that you can see here that the applicant is the same on DBNets and SBB. That is on purpose because we want to go through the create new dossier wizard as soon as possible, because all those informations can be then later edited. So we are not going to spend time on that one. Also, whatever is yellow means that we can do it later. We can do it before we send the path request, and it means that we will now just continue in order to go as quickly as possible through the dossier wizard, and all the corrections of the train parameters, dossier level data, and so on will happen at the end in the afternoon session once the dossier is already created. Yes, we are going to just continue without putting any more information inside. This is also the calendar part that we are going to apply for every running day, and we are just going to click here the create of the dossier, and that is going to be our first version of our business that we created our first dossier information. And now this is where you will have all the information differently for your own dossiers. So now in PCS test 1, there should be multiple dossiers created by each one of you in order to start working on your own business. The draft is here. We are in the open phase. We have the first version of the dossier. You will see here as long as you save something, PCS creates another version. So each time you save something, there is another version of the dossier. So you can here go and check all the history steps always. This is the transparency that PCS is offering to you. And as we said, the skeleton is there. And this is where now the interesting work begins for every applicant, is to fulfill all the information that is necessary in order to place a path request. PCS will always warn you what is missing with those yellow stars. The basic data will allow you to change the partners. So let's see here. We have DB, cargo, flights. So this is now when we are going to create really a good pairs of the dossier with saving it. And in the applicant timetable, we now have DB Cargo Deutschland with DBNets and DB Cargo Schweiz with SBB. Once more, don't forget to do as much as you can in the open phase before going into the harmonization. Harmonization can be released right away without any changes of the colors, but I advise you not to release the harmonization too soon, because then you as a leading entity, you cannot really do anything else on your own. You have to really consult your partners to do their own part. That would be it for the beginner session. We are going to start with the business of the PUPs in the afternoon with Anna. For now, I hope that that was even though we know it is really a lot of information to digest in this short time, we hope that this is a good basis for you to follow along with the new information about how to use PUPs and how to actually work with PUPs. Okay. Any questions that we might clarify before we close the beginner session? Good. Then see you at 1 o'clock. We see all the chat information and chat questions that we might address, and then we are going to make sure to get in touch and make sure that all your questions are responded before we start the next session. Thank you for your attention now, and talk to you soon in the intermediate part.